Today, we're grappling with a question that, well, it's captivated minds for centuries, hasn't it? What really fuels extraordinary achievement?
Mm.
Is it that relentless inner fire, that drive that pushes us past every obstacle? Or maybe a sudden flash of pure genius that reveals a path no one else saw?
Or perhaps just being in the right place at the right time. The fortunate alignment of external opportunities that just open doors.
Exactly. It's that classic tension, isn't it? Internal character versus external circumstance.
It really is. And you've asked us to unpack the true drivers of success. Now, our sources, they don't explicitly frame it as, say, a specific grit versus genius debate.
Right. Not head to head like that.
No. But they definitely offer incredible insights into that interplay, personal attributes, strategic choices, environmental factors, all the things that propel individuals and organizations towards greatness.
Yeah. So our mission today is to dive deep into this really rich collection of articles, research, fascinating stories. We're going to try and extract the most important nuggets of knowledge.
The goal is to help you understand this complex dance, this back and forth between internal and external forces.
We're looking for those aha moments, the things that offer a shortcut to being truly well-informed on this really captivating subject.
Okay.
So let's begin our deep dive. All right, let's kick things off with the inner game. Let's focus on individual drive first. Our sources, again and again, suggest that extraordinary success isn't just about raw talent or, stumbling into the right situation. Often it involves a conscious, almost deliberate cultivation of very specific personal qualities. It seems less about what you're born with.
And much more about what you actively build within yourself.
Yeah.
That's a really powerful observation, the one about internal transformation. So many of these narratives really highlight that internal shaping, that work on yourself, is often something you need first before you see external achievement.
A prerequisite almost.
Exactly. It's about recognizing that your internal state, how you manage yourself, profoundly impacts your ability to perform and succeed out there in the world.
A fantastic illustration of this comes from Cal Newport. He talks about strengthening his deep work muscles.
Right. I remember that.
He wasn't just hoping for productivity to strike him like lightning. He actively designed his life to cultivate it. During his postdoc years at MIT, which is already demanding,
Intense.
he intentionally structured his schedule with artificial constraints. This meant carving out extended lunch breaks specifically for running, a physical activity, but also for mental clarity.
Right, clearing the head.
And crucially, committing to writing his fourth book, So Good They Can't Ignore You, during that same intensely demanding period.
Wow.
That book project itself imposed huge cognitive and time demands. It wasn't passive at all. It was a deliberate, almost rigorous effort to build discipline and focus into his life before the even greater demands of a professorship hit him.
So he knew what was coming and prepared for it in turn.
Precisely. He understood that building that internal capacity was absolutely paramount.
And that kind of intentionality, it echoes Stephen Covey's inside-out approach to effectiveness so strongly.
Oh, definitely. Covey.
Covey argues that true, lasting effectiveness starts from within. It begins by examining and shaping your paradigms, basically the lens through which you see the world.
Your fundamental assumptions.
Exactly, along with your fundamental character and your motives. He really emphasizes that private victories, things like making and keeping promises to ourselves, mastering our own habits, upholding our integrity, are absolutely fundamental.
You have to win those first.
You have to win those first. They must precede what he calls public victories, which are, successes in our relationships, external achievements, trying to improve external stuff, relationships, or public success, without first improving yourself, without that internal alignment and discipline.
It's building on sand.
In his view, it's futile, unsustainable.
Yeah, building on sand is a good way to put it. It highlights how deep internal congruence is really the bedrock for outward success. And this internal shaping, it isn't always about, grand projects or big philosophical frameworks. Sometimes it's about mastering very specific personal traits.
Like what?
Well, take John D. Rockefeller Sr., for example. He was apparently known to have a really ugly temper.
Oh, interesting. I didn't know that.
But instead of letting it control him, he consciously trained himself to control it. And this wasn't just personal growth for the sake of being, a nicer person.
It was strategic.
It was a shrewd strategic choice. He understood that letting ego or pique guide his decisions could lead to really costly mistakes in his business dealings.
Especially in that era, cutthroat.
Absolutely. So by mastering his emotions, he maintained clarity, rationality, control, especially during those high-stakes negotiations and the ruthless pursuit of market dominance. That emotional self-regulation became a key to his long-term success.
Exactly. It's about recognizing what internal traits serve you and which ones don't,
Hmm.
and then actively working to shape them. And in a slightly different but equally profound way, The Millionaire Next Door.
Ah, the classic study.
Yeah, a classic. It highlights that for many of these self-made millionaires, the journey to wealth itself is often more satisfying than just, piling up assets.
Really? More than the money.
Apparently so. They find profound happiness not just in the destination, but in the constant process of setting and achieving economic goals. This suggests that the internal drive for continuous improvement, the challenge of reaching a goal, the discipline it requires.
It's rewarding in itself.
It's deeply rewarding in itself.
Yeah.
It becomes a self-sustaining cycle where the pursuit itself fuels motivation. It's an intrinsic source of satisfaction, rather than relying solely on the external rewards.
Okay, so if we pull all these threads together, Cal Newport's disciplined deep work, Covey's inside-out philosophy, Rockefeller's emotional mastery, and the self-made millionaire's joy in the journey, the key insight seems pretty clear.
What would you say it is?
Extraordinary external achievement is rarely accidental. It seems to be the culmination of deliberate, often uncomfortable, internal self-mastery that has to come first, and then sustain that outward success. That feels like our first big nugget for you today.
I like that. Internal mastery first. #, vision, purpose, and unwavering commitment.
Okay, building on that idea of internal drive, here's where it gets really interesting, I think. This concept that successful individuals often possess an almost singular vision. Sometimes it feels almost obsessive, a vision that guides them.
Yeah, it's more than just a goal or a business plan on paper.
Much more. It's a deep, unwavering conviction that fuels every single decision they make.
This brings up a fascinating question, though. Which comes first? Is it the absolute clarity of the vision that breeds such profound commitment?
Wow.
Or is it an initial powerful commitment that maybe over time helps to clarify and refine the vision?
The chicken or the egg?
Often it seems to be a powerful feedback loop, right? Where the two reinforce each other. Vision sharpens commitment. Commitment deepens vision.
You see this really vividly in the literary world with the character of Ellis Wyatt in Ayn Rand's Atlas Shrugged.
Ah, the ultimate innovator archetype.
Exactly. He's portrayed as this archetypal innovator, but not just any innovator. Despite a whole history of failures by others in his industry, Wyatt develops this groundbreaking new process to extract oil from shale.
Against the odds.
Completely. And his vision isn't about, incremental improvement. He promises it will yield the cheapest oil ever to splash in their faces and an unlimited supply.
Bold claims.
Extremely bold. And to really show the scale of his ambition, he plans to build pipelines in all directions. He's basically envisioning a completely transformed energy landscape.
Wow.
It showcases this almost boundless ambition and an unshakable conviction in his own capabilities and the sheer grandeur of his vision. He just knows it will work, and he pursues it absolutely relentlessly.
That kind of relentless pursuit, that belief, it's very much mirrored in the real-world story of Sam Walton, right? The founder of Walmart.
A great example.
His journey illustrates continuous innovation and an almost obsessive focus on expense control right from the very beginning.
He was apparently always being ingenious, constantly trying to do something different.
And his initial ventures were incredibly humble, weren't they? Starting a small, independent discount store in Rogers, Arkansas, in an era dominated by retail giants.
Yeah, David versus Goliath.
But he had this unwavering, almost radical belief in discounting as the core value proposition. Even when others around him, people he knew, thought he'd completely lost his mind for his aggressive pricing strategies.
He stuck to his guns.
He did. It speaks to a profound, unwavering commitment to a vision, even when it contradicted all the established wisdom. And that commitment, paid off massively over time.
And then you have figures like Elon Musk, as described in Ashley Vance's biography. Musk embodies an extreme version of this visionary drive.
Extreme is probably the right word.
At SpaceX, for instance, he doesn't just set targets. He demands day by day, hour by hour, sometimes even minute by minute forecasts from his engineers.
That sounds incredibly stressful.
Oh, undoubtedly. This intense scrutiny, while leading to immense pressure, including apparently colorful tirades, and famously, managers creating fake schedules just to appease him.
Oh, boy.
It highlights a leader who expects and relentlessly pushes for execution at an almost impossible pace. It's all in service of realizing his audacious vision for space exploration for electric vehicles.
That analogy Vance uses is pretty telling, isn't it? Describing working at Tesla as being Kurt's in Apocalypse Now.
Yeah, it paints a picture of his singular, all-consuming focus on getting the job done, no matter the cost or conventional expectations.
And this consistent, almost ritualistic reinforcement of the vision, it's often a calculated strategic tool, isn't it?
How so?
Well, consider Jeff Bezos at Amazon.
Mm-hmm.
He consistently reinforces Amazon's core values, long-term thinking, willingness to fail repeatedly, embracing misunderstanding, constant process improvement, simple solutions.
Through stories, right, like the packing table story.
Exactly. Through repeated anecdotes, most famously that packing table story. And this isn't just accidental storytelling. The sources suggest it's a calculated strategy.
Calculated how?
By continuously repeating these Jeffisms, he aimed to wear down skeptics, to embed these values deep into the organizational culture, and to ensure that everyone, from the newest hire to the most senior executive, aligned with his clear, simple goals.
So everyone's rowing in the same direction.
Precisely. It made it far easier for that vast, decentralized organization to contribute coherently to his overarching vision.
Okay, so what we see across all these examples, Wyatt's grand innovation, Walton's relentless pursuit, Musk's demanding drive, Bezos' strategic repetition, there's a common thread here.
Which is?
Extraordinary achievement seems powered by an unwavering, almost singular vision, relentlessly pursued, often despite external skepticism or internal resistance. It's that deep internal commitment that turns a mere idea into a monumental reality.
That conviction makes all the difference.
Okay, so shifting gears a bit. We've talked about the internal drive of individuals. Let's look now at the outer game. How organizations find success by understanding and, crucially, maybe shaping their competitive landscapes.
Right. Moving from the person to the playground.
Yeah. It seems like knowing the game you're playing and perhaps even changing the rules of that game is absolutely crucial for long-term survival and growth. You can't just stumble into success at that level. There's a definite playbook, or sometimes you have to write your own.
This is where we connect that individual brilliance, that vision we just talked about, to systemic advantage. Many successful ventures don't simply win a race playing by the existing rules.
They change the race.
They fundamentally redefine the race itself, or sometimes even create a whole new track where they have a distinct built-in advantage. It's about not just being better within the existing framework, but about changing that framework entirely to your benefit.
Hamilton Helmer, in his book 7 Powers, outlines 7 power types. These are essential for a company's continuing success.
Yet they aren't just features of a business. They're deep, sustainable, strategic advantages. What were they again? Branding,
counter-positioning, switching costs, process power, scale economies, network economies, and cornered resource.
Right, quite a list.
And our sources elaborate on many of these. Take Intel's early mover advantage in lithography. By being first and investing huge amounts, they were able to prorate their fab design and manufacturing costs across a massive volume of chips.
Spreading the costs.
Exactly, which led to significantly lower costs per chip compared to any potential competitor trying to enter later. That's a classic, powerful example of scale economies at play.
The bigger you are, the cheaper it gets per unit.
Right, creating an almost insurmountable barrier for newcomers.
And building on that, the early PC market perfectly illustrates another one. Network economies.
How so?
Well, think about it. Consumers weren't just buying a computer chip back then. They were buying the ability to run valuable software applications.
Modus 1, 2, 3, MSTAT.
Exactly. When software giants like Lotus and Microsoft specifically programmed and optimized their killer apps for Intel processors, it created this powerful ecosystem.
So the software needed the hardware, and the hardware needed the software.
Precisely. This meant that other PC makers, if they wanted to offer compatible and desirable products to consumers, had to use Intel-compatible chips. This interdependence of complementary products effectively locked in a dominant position for Intel.
It made their chip architecture essential.
Yeah, creating a powerful competitive moat that just deterred rivals. The value of the network grew exponentially with each user and each piece of compatible software.
And sometimes the winning strategy means avoiding that existing, often bloody, game entirely, Tim and Mawborn's blue ocean strategy.
Right, creating new market space.
Yeah, it challenges the conventional wisdom that new markets always require venturing completely outside your core business. They give compelling examples like Casella wines with Yellowtail.
Ah, yes, disrupting the stuffy wine industry.
Exactly. Or Nintendo with the Wii in gaming, Chrysler with the minivan. These companies didn't necessarily create entirely new industries. They created uncontested market space, or blue oceans, by looking at familiar data from a totally new perspective.
Within their existing industries.
Right, within their existing industries, they identified non-customers or overlooked value propositions to carve out their own profitable niches rather than fighting head-to-head in those crowded, cutthroat red oceans.
That notion of strategic avoidance, of carving out a distinct position, it's also really evident in Alfred P. Sloan Jr.'s strategy for General Motors against the formidable Henry Ford.
How did GM take on the Model T juggernaut?
Well, Sloan recognized that with Ford's Model T almost completely dominating the low-price automotive field, a direct competition would have been, quote, suicidal.
Makes sense.
So instead of going head-on, GM strategically aimed to, quote, take a bite from the top of his position. They built Chevrolet's volume profitably by focusing on slightly higher price classes, offering more variety, more features.
Letting customers step up?
Exactly. Allowing customers to step up as they could afford it. This was a brilliant example of counterpositioning, identifying a dominant incumbent's weaknesses like Ford's lack of variety, the single model focus, and creating a profitable strategy that didn't require self-destructive direct competition.
Smart. So whether it's Intel leveraging scale, the PC market's network effects, creating a blue ocean like Yellowtail, or GM's shrewd counterpositioning against Ford, the clear takeaway here seems to be extraordinary organizational success isn't just about competing better. It's about strategically understanding and often reshaping the competitive rules of the game to your advantage, creating sustainable power that others just can't easily replicate.
Mastering the outer game. #tag the art of market creation and adaptation.
So it sounds like success in this outer game isn't merely about responding to existing market demands, but also about proactively identifying and maybe even creating new opportunities.
Yes, being an architect of the market, not just a participant reacting to it. Indeed, this proactive nature is a real hallmark of many successful ventures. It often requires what you might call strategic innovation, something that fundamentally transforms an industry. And that's usually coupled with a willingness to rethink even the most basic assumptions about what customers want or how a market operates.
It's not just filling a demand.
It's shaping and cultivating it.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Amazon's adoption of an everyday low prices strategy is a prime example of this, isn't it?
It really is. Jeff Bezos apparently recognized, somewhat ironically, that Amazon's pricing was, in his words, incoherent, despite the company always preaching low prices.
Interesting self-awareness there.
Yeah. And influenced by a pivotal conversation with Costco's legendary CEO, James Sinegal.
Ah, another retail giant.
Bezos mandated a shift to truly everyday low prices, to consistently match and beat competitors. This wasn't a minor tweak, it was a profound strategic pivot.
And
Combined with Amazon's basically unlimited selection and unmatched convenience, it allowed them to ultimately win in the incredibly cutthroat world of retail. Scott Galloway even describes Amazon's retail platform as a kind of Trojan horse.
A Trojan horse? How?
Initially establishing deep customer relationships and brand loyalty through its e-commerce, which it then later monetized with other incredibly lucrative businesses like AWS and advertising. It was a clear, consistent, and ultimately transformative market positioning.
Wow. And that drive to control the entire customer experience, that's something Steve Jobs championed at Apple, and it speaks to this idea of market creation, too.
Yeah, absolutely. Jobs firmly believed that for Amazon to truly succeed in the burgeoning digital books market, they needed to control the entire customer experience, much as Apple had done so successfully with music through iTunes and the iPod.
The ecosystem approach.
Precisely. This meant combining sleek hardware, the Kindle, with an easy-to-use digital bookstore. This integrated, holistic approach was about delivering a superior, seamless product experience rather than just being a component provider or licensing content.
Which would have been easier, presumably.
Much easier. It required a bold commitment for Amazon to, quote, hire our way to having the talent and learn how to do it from scratch. They explicitly rejected licensing strategies that even Apple co-founder Steve Wozniak and the visionary Alan Kay had apparently advocated.
So it was a refusal to compromise on that end-to-end user journey.
Exactly. Fundamentally reshaping how people consumed digital content.
And critically, this art of market creation and adaptation, it isn't a one-time event, is it? The market itself is constantly evolving, demanding continuous strategic adaptation.
Oh, absolutely. You can't rest on your laurels.
Eugene Schwartz, the legendary direct response copywriter, describes how advertising needs to evolve with market sophistication.
Right, as the audience gets savvier.
Yeah. In what he calls the third stage, for example, the core promise of a product becomes less effective on its own. So it has to be subordinated to the mechanism that delivers it a new ingredient or a breakthrough process.
So you focus on the how.
Right. Then, in the fourth stage, the advertising elaborates not just on the mechanism, but on the mechanism itself, delving into its unique qualities.
Getting even more specific.
Exactly. This intricate understanding illustrates that market perception and strategic communication have to constantly adapt as audiences become more knowledgeable, more discerning, maybe even more jaded. They demand deeper explanations and ever more unique angles to capture their attention.
So from Amazon's strategic pricing pivot to Apple's integrated customer experience and the nuanced evolution of advertising sophistication, the insight seems pretty clear.
Go on.
Market leadership isn't just about meeting existing demand. It's often about proactively shaping new demand and consistently adapting your strategy, your product, and your communication to an ever-evolving audience. You have to stay ahead of the curve.
Constant adaptation. Okay, so we've talked about the individual's inner game and an organization's outer game, the market strategy. But what about the glue? The thing that holds it all together and actually makes it work?
Leadership.
Leadership.
Yeah.
It seems there are so many ways to lead effectively, and it's definitely not a one-size-fits-all approach. So what truly defines an effective leader in these diverse contexts we're looking at?
Well, this raises a really important question about balance, doesn't it? How do truly effective leaders manage to balance directive action?
Yeah.
Telling people what to do with genuinely empowering their teams, especially in incredibly high-stakes dynamic environments.
Yeah, the context must dictate the style, right?
Absolutely. Context often dictates the most effective style, and adaptability seems to be a core trait.
Daniel Goleman's extensive research really highlights this adaptability. He found that truly effective leaders don't just have one style. They master 4 or more distinct leadership styles and switch flexibly among them depending on the situation.
What styles did he focus on?
Well, often authoritative, democratic, affiliative, and coaching styles. For instance, while the coaching style focused on developing direct reports for the future, might not immediately scream bottom-line results.
It feels more long-term.
Exactly. But Goleman's data shows it actually delivers them over time by fostering growth and capability within the team. Conversely, in a crisis, a much more authoritative style might be absolutely essential.
Right tool for the right job.
The point is, great leaders have a diverse toolkit and, crucially, know when to use each instrument.
In high-stress, rapidly evolving environments, though, a very different dynamic often takes hold. One focused on extreme empowerment.
Like in the military.
Exactly. Extreme ownership. The book by former Navy SEAL officers Jocko Willink and Leif Babin illustrates this vividly. In combat, SEAL leaders divided their platoons into small, manageable teams, with each junior leader controlling only a few subordinates.
Decentralized.
Highly decentralized. And crucially, these junior leaders were expected to make decisions and provide solutions themselves. They typically state, "This is what I'm going to do," rather than constantly asking for instructions or waiting for top-down orders.
Sort of taking ownership.
Extreme ownership, yeah. This decentralized command structure, coupled with a shared understanding of the overall mission intent from the top, enabled incredibly unified action, even in chaotic, unpredictable scenarios. It highlighted the critical role of trust, clear communication of intent, and empowering autonomy at the lowest possible level.
But then on the other end of the spectrum, you have figures like Robert Moses.
Ah, the master builder.
Right. He exemplified a highly authoritative and relentlessly persuasive, almost dictatorial leadership style, often described as a sheer will to power.
He got things done, but controversially.
Absolutely. When his formidable powers of persuasion were not sufficient to change Governor Roosevelt's mind on an issue, he wouldn't just back down. He would apparently mobilize forces against the governor.
Wow, playing hardball.
He was incredibly adept at expanding definitions to assert control. For example, he took a provision for building connecting roads and used it as a pretext to build vast, overarching highways throughout New York City, essentially acting as the de facto city government for infrastructure.
Stretching rules.
To the limit. Governor Harriman's eventual capitulation in the face of Moses's relentless will highlights the sheer force of this type of determined leadership, capable of overriding democratic processes through sheer, unyielding drive.
So whether we're talking about Goldman's adaptable leadership styles, the decentralized command of the Navy SEALs, or Robert Moses's powerful, almost singular will, the key takeaway seems to be
What links these very different approaches?
effective leadership is less about a fixed persona and more about dynamic adaptability. It's about balancing the necessity of clear direction with the strategic empowerment of teams and understanding how to exert influence within varying contexts to achieve those desired outcomes. It's about reading the situation.
Context is king. Hashtag, designing for collective success. Okay, so it's clear leadership isn't just about the person at the top, the figurehead. It's also profoundly about how you structure the organization itself to enable collective greatness.
Right. Setting up the entire ecosystem for success.
Mm.
Making sure that individual efforts actually add up to something more powerful.
Yeah, synergy.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And what's truly fascinating here is how deliberate design choices in team dynamics and communication structures, even in the market approach, can profoundly impact performance and proactively avoid common pitfalls.
So it moves beyond individual charisma.
To creating systemic effectiveness that can actually outlast any single leader. It's about building a machine that works.
Katzenbach and Smith, in The Discipline of Teams, they delve into this by presenting two distinct models for achieving results.
Okay, what are they?
Well, there's the traditional single-leader discipline where a leader sets benchmarks, assigns tasks, maintains clear control. The standard model, really. Yeah. But then there's the much more demanding team discipline, which requires shared leadership and mutual accountability.
How does that work?
In this model, the group itself determines its own performance rationale, sets its own requirements, and holds each other accountable. They emphasize that an effective working group is distinct from one that performs exceptionally as a true team.
Ah, so a team is more than just a group.
Exactly. The latter requires a different kind of internal governance and a much deeper shared responsibility. It's a fundamental shift in how responsibility and success are distributed and owned within the unit.
And formal communication structures must be incredibly crucial for that kind of collective success, right?
Absolutely. Andrew S. Grove, the legendary CEO of Intel.
Back to Intel.
He famously utilized 3 types of process-oriented meetings to maintain organizational efficiency and foster continuous improvement. These included detailed one-on-ones.
Okay, supervisor and subordinate.
Right, designed for mutual teaching and information exchange. Then regular staff meetings for broader team alignment and comprehensive operation reviews.
A clear cadence.
Yeah. The one-on-one in particular was seen as absolutely crucial for maintaining the vital business relationship and for proactive problem solving, and it was noted as highly unusual outside of Intel at the time.
Interesting.
This highly structured approach to communication ensured that information flowed effectively both up and down, that issues were addressed proactively, and that relationships were continuously maintained and strengthened across the organization.
So the structure enabled the function.
Right. And beyond internal structures, successful organizational design also means understanding and navigating those external market dynamics effectively. Kim and Mauborn's red ocean traps.
The mistakes companies make in crowded markets.
Exactly. They highlight the importance of actively focusing on attracting new customers and worrying less about segmentation of existing markets.
Why is that?
Well, they argue that this approach helps organizations avoid old market saturation and the intense, often unprofitable competition it breeds. Market creation, they assert, isn't just about technological innovation or creative destruction.
It's a strategic shift.
It's a strategic shift in how an organization conceives its market and who it aims to serve. And that requires a different approach to organizational structure and focus.
And finally, in our modern digital age, organizational design has to encompass ethical considerations too, right? Social responsibility.
It seems increasingly crucial. Satya Nadella, the CEO of Microsoft, stresses the urgent need for the technology industry to design for transparency.
What does that mean in practice?
Well, proactively publishing aggregate data on government requests for digital evidence, for instance, and, crucially, allowing user notification when their data is requested.
Giving users more control and insight.
Yeah. This highlights an evolving understanding of organizational responsibility and ethical design in the digital age. The impact of technology extends far beyond just the product itself. Trust and privacy are now becoming fundamental design principles for modern organizations, directly impacting their collective success and their standing in society.
Okay, so whether it's the shift to shared team leadership, meticulous meeting structures like Intel's, avoiding those red ocean market traps, or embracing transparency like Nadella advocates,
Yeah.
the clear insight here seems to be
Lay it on us.
orchestrating greatness means intentionally designing an organization and its processes to foster collaboration, enable information flow, adapt to market shifts, and build public trust, rather than simply relying on individual heroics or charisma. It's about the system.
Building the machine. Hashtag tag 4. The role of capital, finance, and risk. Hashtag financial leverage and strategic investment. All right. As we talk about extraordinary achievement, we just can't ignore the critical role of money, can we? Capital, finance, strategy.
No, it's fundamental. It's not just about earning it, but how it's deployed and managed. It's almost like a complex, high-stakes chess game.
Yeah.
In this section, it raises some profound questions about how financial decisions, everything from strategic capital allocation to astute risk assessment, fundamentally shape a company's trajectory.
These choices can be existential, right?
Yeah, absolutely. It can determine whether a venture soars or completely falters.
Burton G. Malkiel, in his work on investment, introduces a really foundational concept, the capital asset pricing model, or CAPM.
Finance 101, beta.
Exactly, beta. He explains that there's no premium, no extra reward for bearing diversifiable risks. These are the company-specific risks you can eliminate just by holding a well-diversified portfolio.
Don't put all your eggs in one basket.
Right. However, to achieve a higher average long-run return, you must increase your portfolio's undiversifiable or systematic risk. This is the overall market risk you can't avoid.
And that's measured by beta.
That's measured by beta. Think of beta as a stock's sensitivity to the overall market. A beta of 1 means it tends to move with the market, while a beta of 2 means it tends to swing twice as much, up or down.
Higher potential reward, higher potential volatility.
Exactly. So higher potential rewards often come with taking on more of that inherent, unavoidable market volatility. Understanding this distinction between risks is absolutely crucial for strategic investment.
And that strategic approach to money, it isn't just for Wall Street tros, is it? It's a mindset anyone can adopt.
How so?
Well, the rich dad, poor dad philosophy, for example, powerfully emphasizes making money work for you rather than just working for money.
The passive income idea.
Yeah. It paints this vivid picture. Each dollar in my asset column was a great employee, working hard to make more employees and buy the boss a new Porsche.
Memorable.
It is memorable, but it's more than just a catchy phrase. It's a fundamental mindset shift. It moves your focus from merely earning an income to strategically investing that income in assets that generate more wealth.
Making your money make money.
It's about asset accumulation, creating passive income streams, essentially turning your money into a tireless workforce that continuously builds your financial freedom.
But there's definitely a potential dark side to this financial leverage, right? Where the pursuit of profit can overshadow broader economic or societal contributions.
Oh, absolutely. Value of everything illustrates this chillingly. It shows how some financial entities, like the Macquarie Bank in one example,
What did they do?
they prioritized increasing their profits by securing additional debts against assets they acquired and then channeling the revenues into interest payments and distributions to shareholders.
Okay. So what's the problem?
Well, the case of Thames Water, the UK water utility after Macquarie acquired it, is a stark example. They reportedly increased its debt dramatically from $3.2 billion to $7.8 billion by 2012, while simultaneously avoiding significant investment in the actual infrastructure.
So the asset deteriorated while the owners profited?
That's the implication. It highlights this profound tension between financial gain for a few and the broader economic contribution or even the degradation of essential public services.
Yeah, that's concerning.
And this tension brings us to John Maynard Keynes' general theory. He discusses this continuous economic challenge. New capital investment must outrun capital disinvestment sufficiently to fill the gap between net income and consumption.
Can you break that down a bit?
In simpler terms, a healthy economy needs more new productive investments being made than it loses through things like depreciation or just consuming capital. We need to build more than we wear out or use up.
Okay, makes sense.
Keynes notes that this becomes increasingly difficult as capital increases, because a larger existing stock of capital makes it harder and harder to find new, sufficiently productive investment opportunities.
The low-hanging fruit gets picked.
Exactly.
Yeah.
This suggests a constant, almost Sisyphean need for productive investment to maintain economic equilibrium and avoid stagnation. Today's financial and investment choices critically impact tomorrow's economic health and growth.
So whether we're dissecting market risks with beta, adopting that rich dad wealth-building mindset, or examining the societal impact of financial leverage, the key insight here seems to be
Go for it.
the strategic deployment and management of capital, driven by an astute understanding of risk and opportunity, is a fundamental lever for extraordinary achievement. And it impacts both individual wealth and the broader economic systems we all rely on.
Money makes the world go round, but how it goes round matters. Hashtag navigating uncertainty and learning from crisis.
Of course, finance is rarely, if ever, a straight line, is it? There's always inherent risk, uncertainty, and dealing with it effectively seems to be another hallmark of true achievement.
Definitely. It's not just about knowing when to hold them and when to fold them, as the saying goes.
There's also understanding the psychology behind those choices, right?
Oh, absolutely. What's truly fascinating here is how deeply human psychology, rather than pure detached rationality, often influences decisions in financial markets, especially during times of crisis.
Our biases take over.
They really can. And these cognitive biases can lead to both catastrophic losses and, paradoxically, incredible opportunities for those few who can somehow see through them.
Burton G. Malkiel also discusses loss aversion.
Ah, yes, the pain of losing feels stronger than the pleasure of winning.
Exactly. It's this powerful psychological phenomenon where investors exhibit a reluctance to take losses. This means people often hold on to losing investments for way too long, even when selling is rationally the better choice.
Like selling stocks with losses for tax benefits.
Right. Or homeowners stubbornly clinging to high asking prices in a falling real estate market. This irrational behavior, driven by a desire to avoid the pain of realizing a loss, can actually hinder sound financial decisions.
It can prolong market downturns.
And prevent capital from being reallocated to more productive uses. It gums up the works.
Howard Marks, the renowned investor, brings this into even sharper focus. He quotes John Kenneth Galbraith's famous phrase, "The extreme brevity of the financial memory."
You forget past crises so quickly.
Depressingly quickly. This explains why market participants repeatedly fall for delusions, like the belief that they can achieve high returns without taking on high risk. They consistently fail to recognize recurring patterns from history.
So what's the key, according to Marx?
Marx argues the key isn't just to learn from painful experience, because often that's too late. It's to proactively anticipate pitfalls.
How do you do that?
It requires a deep historical awareness, a healthy dose of skepticism, and often the counterintuitive thinking to go against the prevailing market sentiment when it seems irrational.
The 2008 subprime mortgage crisis provides a stark, really compelling example of this collective amnesia and psychological resistance, doesn't it?
Oh, absolutely. The Big Short powerfully reveals that deep-seated resistance to acknowledging systemic risks, even when people were presented with clear evidence.
What was the common response?
When confronted with arguments about the impending subprime market collapse, many investors' common response was apparently resigned, "I'm convinced, you're right, but it's not my job to short the subprime market."
Wow. Passing the buck.
Or just staying in their lane. This widespread inaction, this refusal to step outside their defined roles or confront uncomfortable truths, ironically created the massive opportunity. For visionary and contrarian investors, like Greg Lippmann and Michael Burry, they uniquely identified and bet against the profound disorder in the financial system, even though their actions felt, quote, morbid, and went completely against the grain.
They saw the unconventional opportunity where others saw only risk or just not their problem.
Exactly. They saw what others refused to see or were incentivized not to see.
And Nassim Nicholas Taleb, in his work, issues this crucial warning against confusing absence of volatility with absence of risk.
Right. Just because things are calm doesn't mean they're safe.
Precisely. He notes that the evolution into extremistan, his term for systems dominated by extreme, unpredictable events, is paradoxically marked by a lowering of volatility and a greater risk of big jumps. Things seem stable right before they blow up.
Like the calm before the storm.
Yeah. He cites Federal Reserve Chairman Ben Bernanke and the banking system before 2008 as being fooled by this, mistakenly equating a period of calm with inherent safety.
Relying on the wrong metrics.
It highlights the profound danger of relying on conventional metrics that misinterpret stability as an absence of danger. It underscores the critical need for a deeper, more critical understanding of true systemic risk, especially in these complex, interconnected systems we live in.
So, from the psychological traps of loss aversion to the short financial memory and the hidden dangers of low volatility, the clear insight here is
Let's hear it.
navigating uncertainty and crisis is a crucial component of extraordinary achievement. It demands not just analytical prowess, but also a deep understanding of human psychology, a willingness to challenge consensus, and the courage to act on unconventional insights, especially when others are unwilling or unable to confront uncomfortable truths.
Seeing reality clearly, even when it's ugly.
Mm.
Hashtag tag outro. Wow. Okay. We've truly traversed a fascinating landscape of insights today, haven't we?
We really have covered a lot of ground.
From the intense personal drive of innovators, those people meticulously cultivating their deep work muscles or controlling their inner demons like Rockefeller,
Right, the inner game.
to the strategic genius of market shapers, the ones creating blue oceans or leveraging scale economies like Intel or GM.
The outer game.
Then we explored the critical role of leadership in fostering success, whether it's through adaptable styles like Goldman described, or decentralized command like the SEALs.
Orchestrating greatness.
And finally, diving into the complex interplay of finance and risk, where understanding human psychology seems just as crucial as any market model.
The role of capital and uncertainty.
It's been a powerful journey.
It has. And what consistently emerges, I think, is that extraordinary achievement is rarely down to a single, simple ingredient.
No silver bullet.
No silver bullet. That's often a potent cocktail, isn't it? A mix of relentless individual effort, sharp strategic foresight, effective team orchestration, and a shrewd navigation of economic realities and those inherent uncertainties.
It's a reminder that success seems built on a foundation of both internal fortitude and external adaptability.
Exactly. The ability to look inward and cultivate that self-mastery while simultaneously looking outward to understand and shape markets. That feels like a powerful combination.
Yeah, it really does. So as you, listening, reflect on your own pursuits, maybe remember the wisdom of Peter Drucker. He said, "All events but the truly unique require a generic solution. They require a rule, a policy, a principle."
Mastering the basics, the proven methods.
Right. That speaks to mastering those proven blueprints we've discussed today. But then he adds this crucial caveat. Truly unique events, however, must be treated individually. One cannot develop rules for the exceptional.
So know the rules, but know when they don't apply.
Exactly. Which leaves us with a really compelling question, I think. In our own quest for achievement, how do we master the established principles, the generic solutions of success that we know work?
While simultaneously cultivating the wisdom, the courage to recognize and uniquely address those truly exceptional rule-defying moments that demand a wholly new approach.
That's the challenge, isn't it? Something to mull over and explore. Yeah.
Definitely food for thought.
Until our next deep dive.